Hey guys, welcome back. I just want to start out by saying I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving and that you all recovered from your turkey comas. But anyways, the point of this video is I finally got all my mainline track laid, and today is wiring day. And since almost, well, 99% of my turnouts are isolated frogs, I kind of have to do a bunch of wiring before I can even run a train. So there's no temporary hookup here and there. So it's got to be done. We got to do it because I want to run a train. So hold on, and I'll show you the list of materials that I'm using. Alright guys, first and foremost, of course, you're going to need some wire strippers and screwdrivers and various tools. That should be self-explanatory. For my bus line, I'm using 14 gauge house wire. That's what I've used on all my layouts, and it works out great. So I have a lot of stripping to do here to get all the sheathing off of it. I do have some left over from my previous layouts, but most of it got cut up into sections, so I'm just going to start fresh and run as long of a bus line without cutting it as possible. For the feeder wires, I use thermostat wiring, 18 gauge thermostat wiring, 18-2, and of course you have to strip the sheathing off of that, and you're left with a red wire and a white wire, and that's also solid copper. I prefer solid copper over stranded, or solid wire over stranded wire. That's just a personal preference of mine. But as far as the 14 gauge bus and the 18 gauge feeders, that's plenty fine for an HO scale layout. You won't have any issues with that. Some people go bigger, some people go smaller. This is what I do, and it works fine for me. So like I said, I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just saying this is how I do it. And as most of you know, I run the power cab. So I bought the Smart Booster to add to this layout. And I want to thank Steve and Gary Atwell again at Midwest Model Railroaders for this. I also got these different lengths RJ12 cables from them also. They have, I think, 4 different lengths you can order, and they're some of the best, actually one of the best prices that I've even found on RJ12 cables. So if you're looking for lengths of RJ12, I think they go from anywhere from 10 feet up to 25 feet, and there's a couple lengths in between. Like I said, there's 4 different lengths. I'll put the link to their page at the bottom or in the description if you want to check that out. Right now I have 4 UTP panels well, they'll be slapped up temporary till I get my fascia up. But I will add more of them around the layout. But for now, I have 4 of them I'm going to use. I got 2 of them at Trainmaster Models. Is that how it goes? Trainmaster's Hobbies. I'll also add the link to that in the description. I got 2 of them from them, and the other 2 I got from well, that other well-known online store that everybody knows. You know, I don't need to mention that. I bought these off eBay. I use a combination of these Scotch locks, suitcase connectors, whichever you want to refer to them as. I use a combination of those and terminal blocks, barrier strips, whatever term you want to use for those also. I use a combination of both them for attaching my feeders to the bus line. Some people don't like using these, some people do. I have never had any issues using these. It makes it easy to attach your bus line or your feeders wherever you want on your bus. But like I said, that's a matter of personal preference also. That's what I use. And I will have some, I'm going to use some of these too for sub buses. I'm going to run some sub buses for my yard and my tracks leading to my engine facility and such. I'm going to run a sub bus off the main bus for those areas, and I will use these terminal strips for that also. I'm not going to videotape this whole process. I'll do I'm gonna work on it, and I'll pop the camera in from time to time and show you my progress and explain what I did, how I did it, why I did it, you know, whatever. But that's it. But I do have my main line all in. Lift out still popping in and out all right and still lined up, so that's good news. Temperature got cold out, so my basement got a lot colder, and it's kind of chilly right down here right now. My fingers are cold actually, but it's still working, so that's great news. No buckling or anything on my track anywhere yet. Good news. Which honestly, I've never had any. I never had any buckling problems or warping or whatever you want to call it with my track. So that's an issue I've never dealt with. This is a semi-controlled environment as far as the temperature and everything. I mean, there is fluctuations, but it's not drastic fluctuations. But anyways, I got all my main line laid. As you can see, I did have cork pad. Sorry, I went right by without saying anything. The reason this is where my yard and everything's going to be, and the reason I had to do that was I needed to know the exact locations to put this turnout and the other one up there on the main line. Since they all connected to turnouts, before I could finish the main line, I needed to actually connect all them turnouts, so I knew exactly where to place these turnouts. If I wouldn't have had it just quite right, then these would have not have lined up the way I wanted them to. So I went ahead and laid the cork pad down so I could do that much of it. But anyways, main line's laid, and we'll get busy here with wiring, and we'll be running trains very soon. Alright guys, stay put. I'll be right back. Alright guys, I have my bus line run. I have all the sheathing cut off of it, and I have it run around the layout. I do have some extra back here that I plan on looping around up under here, just so I have some extra in the future. If I ever have to cut some of my bus line out or whatever, then I will have a little bit extra to work with down the road. That's something I do. I don't know if anybody else does. And I just drilled holes through my bench work all along the way and ran the bus line, and it's around underneath all the way around. And another thing I do is when it comes to like corners and stuff, I loop it back here a little bit and leave some extra there too. And I don't run this bus line real tight. Like I said, I'm just one that I like to have a little bit extra. If I ever make changes in the future of my layout and or anything, and I need a little extra bus line, it's already there. I got some slack placed in different areas where I can you know, have a little extra, like back in here. Anytime where there's a turn on my layout, and I leave a little extra. But as you can see, I have it. And I do have to pin it up in a couple areas, like right there, it's sagging down. Now another thing you can do is you can actually put some twist in your bus line. Like, you know, not a real tight twist, just twist it around lightly. I never did before. Supposedly that helps with interference. I guess outside radio type interference or whatever. I've never done it, never had any problems, and I haven't done it on this layout either. Especially when, well, I just ran this on, it's almost 100 feet of wiring, and it would have been a pain for me to try to twist it anyway, so I didn't. Now, like I said, this is just loosely based in here right now. There's certain areas where I might have to tack it up out of the way. But I will also have a fascia on this layout too, so that won't be a problem. But, you know, I have it all the way around. And I built, sorry for the moving around, I built a little shelf under here for my smart booster. Now the next thing I'm going to do is temporarily wire up the UTP panels and start dropping some feeder wires. So that's it. Moving on to the next step. Alright guys, I'm getting ready to drop my feeders. What I have here is a long 1/8 inch drill bit, and I just drilled down through between the ties where I already did one here, right here. On the outside edge, just drill down through between the ties. Simple as that. Just make sure you have a drill bit big enough for your feeder wires. That's all that's necessary. And as you can see, I got some terminal strips installed here. I got my line coming out of my my track line coming out of my booster up in and tied in with my bus line. I also added a terminal strip there, which I can run a couple sub buses off that I'm going to run to my yard areas. So I got that much installed there. Now I'm going to drop some feeders. Another thing to take note of whenever you're going to wire this up. Whenever you're laying your first wiring, like I have my bus line here, as you can see I have a white and a black. Now you want to determine, it doesn't matter when you start out, just pick a rail for each color. In my case, I'm going to use the inside rail as white and the outside rail as black. Now when I drop my feeders, you need to match up the same rail with your same bus line. So I have white and red feeders. So my white feeders are going to tie into the white bus line, and the red's going to tie into the black bus line. Now you need to keep everything consistent. So my inside rail is going to be white, the outside is going to be black, or the red feeder wire. Now you have to maintain that consistently all the way around your layout. So if you get confused, if you have a bunch of turns and then, you know, swing backs or whatever, just all you have to do is continue to follow that rail all the way around and make sure you use the same color bus, same color feeders, and tie them all in the same way, or you will have a short. If you get, I mean, obviously that changes if you have a reverse loop or a Y. Then of course you're going to need something to deal with that situation. The auto reverser things, you know, I've never used them, and I never had any reverse loops or anything on my layout, so I don't have any experience with them. But there's plenty of guys out there that do have the experience, so if you have something like that in your layout, be sure to look them up and get your information from them. But I cannot provide you any information with those. I have never used them. But the main thing is keep your wiring consistent to avoid any shorts. Alright, on with the feeders. Alright, as you can see, I have my feeder wires here. And let me see if I can get a close up. And I just bend a little 90-degree angle on them. Yeah. And then drop them down in the holes beside the track. And as you can see, there's one leaning up against the rail and waiting to be soldered on. Alright guys, I dropped a bunch of feeders. Now I'm going around and soldering them in place. As you can see, if you remembered my previous video, I finally got a slightly better soldering iron than I had last time. This still isn't a top of the line Weller, but it's better than the Harbor Freight one. And as you can see, there's a feeder soldered on, one directly on the other side. So that's what I'm doing. Be careful to not melt your ties. It's easy to do. And also be careful you don't slip off the rail with your soldering iron like I did on one of my feeder wires over on the other end of the layout. Slipped off and hit the tie real quick and put a nice melt mark on it. But oh well. Just, you know, you definitely have to be careful what you're doing. Alright guys, back to work. Alright guys, here we're back underneath the bench work. I have all my feeder wires soldered to the rails, and I have them dropped down under and spliced into my bus line with these suitcase connectors or Scotch locks, depending on how you want to refer to them as. They're you know, they have a couple different names. As you can see, my bus line is still hanging down here yet. I'm not completely done with it yet, but I'll make sure that's secured and up out of the way. But for now, you know, I'm still wiring. I actually only have about 50% of my feeders attached to the track right now. I have enough on the track to run a locomotive or run a train all the way around, but I would like to add probably twice as many more on there yet. That I don't have on there yet, but that's down the road here a little bit yet. But I want to get something on and get it so I can at least test out the track work. So I'm going to wire up some UTP panels here, and then I'm going to break out some locomotives, and we're going to do some test running. Stay tuned, guys.